What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Novichenko Whips YouTube channel. Today we're doing a quick full synthetic oil change on the 335i N55 engine. I'm going with a MAN filter HU816X. Was sent to me by FCP Euro or something. I've been using in my cars a lot of the Motul oil. This one, of course, goes in all the Euro cars. I just feel like my cars are happier with this oil. They at least sound a lot better. If I'd even do like a recording of my car running before using this oil, whatever it was, something, you know, off the shelf at your local auto parts store, Mobile One, Castrol, all the others. I just feel like, and especially in my truck, when I switched out the oil to the Motul 540, it sounds way better. It's more expensive. You can buy it on Amazon. It's a little bit more expensive than the other oils. A lot of Euro guys also run the Liqui-Moly, which is great, I think, as well. I've run it and I like their additives. Better yet, we're going to be using an additive from Liqui-Moly once we change the oil. This car's at 100,000 miles. Runs great, doesn't skip a beat, which is good. Has little things here and there, but it's consumed some oil in the last couple of months, but that's probably because I've been having fun and ripping on it, you know, taking it up to red line regularly. And so I think it's just a byproduct of having fun on your Beamer. It was only like a quarter of a quart, most likely, that I've had to add just to keep the electronic dipstick indication happy on the iDrive system, since there's no physical dipstick. But yeah, let's get to it. I'm going to drain it. I'm going to show you a cool magnetic oil drain plug that I've purchased. I think it's very similar to any drain plug that you can get. One tip is don't buy cheap drain plugs that are hollow inside. You could literally break off the cap or the top of it, and then you're in a world of pain trying to get your drain plug out of your oil pan. Buy something that's solid billet that won't break off when you know, Guten tight over torque it, or have the tendency to do, just like most car guys, you know, snugging things up, making sure they won't come loose. Let's get started. Take you along. I'm going to take off the under tray and we're going to drain the old oil. Luckily, the German engineers thought of us, and there's a little access port to where the drain plug is, and it's facing straight down, which also helps. Hopefully we won't make a big mess, but we'll unscrew that and give it ample time to drain. I usually, if I don't want it to make a huge mess right away when I undo the plug, I don't open the cap yet or take off the filter housing cap. That, I guess, lessens the amount of vacuum in the system, and so the oil drains a little slower in the beginning. And if I can see that, you know, it's not draining with a huge amount of oil, then I'll crack this open and let all of it drain out the plug at the bottom. Quick tip if you're trying to minimize making a mess. If you don't care, you can open that first, and it's just gonna come out full speed whenever you take off the bottom drain plug. All right, I got my 17 mil socket. It's gonna go, it's kind of an interesting spot on how we're gonna take this out, because if you do it by hand, you're almost guaranteed to get oil on yourself. I guess we'll try to be careful. The oil is not crazy hot at this point. Like I said, the car has been standing for a bit. Usually it's recommended to change the oil when the oil is all the way hot. I got my rags ready, just trying to minimize making any kind of mess. It's not fun. So the 17er fits. Looks like someone really torqued down. Oh, okay, not too crazy bad. Probably just with the heat cycles. She's got some torque in there. Okay. We'll make sure to get the new plug torqued correctly. And this one looks, it's not stripped, but the head of it has some signs of where people's hex or wrenches have slipped off of it and skewed it a bit. Still feeling a good bit of resistance. All of these plugs, yeah, I guess still plenty of thread. It's always that anticipation of getting splashed with oil, which is the least fun. Sometimes you get a tiny bit of warning, like, oh, it's almost there, so it gets nice and loose where you can finger loosen it, but sometimes there's like no warning until the very end. Some people, they'll flick it and get their hand out of the way. See if that works for us. Nice. It worked. And so as you can see, it's flowing pretty steadily. Let me open the top cap. Might increase the flow. Yep. Love it. And you can do things without a huge mess. And we're just gonna give it some good time to drain there. And we'll be back showing you the new plug in a minute. Here we are looking at the original drain plug, and on this side is the magnetic one. It's a pretty good one. It's got some weight to it, so I can tell it's not hollow. I probably bought it off Amazon. Stainless steel. There you go. So it's not like one of those cheaper hollow ones, but you can check how strong it is. It's a pretty strong magnet, so let's put this in and of course use a new washer and snug it up and work on the changing the oil filter up top. What you need is a M12 by 1.5 thread pitch. That's what you can look up. All right, we've got that drain plug snugged up underneath. I'll still leave all the cardboard under it so that I can heat cycle the car and then check the bolt one more time. So now we're looking at this oil filter housing cap. Technically, these are supposed to be hand tightened when you put in the new oil filter. But with the heat cycling, I think it, seizes on there pretty good. I'll try to take it off by hand, and if I can't, I have a small tool that I've purchased for the M5 that might plop on here, and I'll use that because I can see there's a couple skid marks on it already, meaning someone's had to use a tool in the past. Oh yeah, it's on there pretty good. Let me grab that. So they sell these BMW. I don't know if they're 12 point or 13 point, but I think it's fairly near universal for BMWs and their filter housings. Just inspecting it right here, it looks like it fits on pretty good. You could probably give it a nice tap on the top to snug it up. You probably don't want to hammer down so that then you are unable to take off that piece. And let's just give this a quick try. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. I might need to tap it on there. Here we are. Okay, that's better. Okay, yeah. Using the tool, way better. And again, if this thing kind of seats on there, later on, right, you're going to put the same cap back on. So I'll just utilize this tool, and then I'll carefully pry under with like a flathead screwdriver to take this tool off. But super handy because it was definitely tightened up on there. Now for the moment of truth to see what our oil filter looks like. If you're not used to these type of oil filters, they're more of an insert. It's not a canned filter that you screw on, but rather a type of filter that you put into this housing and then reassemble the housing. It's also interesting to me that this oil doesn't really drain out of here. You probably have to get like a nice shop towel. Definitely a good shop paper towel, those that don't leave any particulates behind but soak up oil and liquids really well so that you don't get any contaminants in there. But it remains like this. It looks fine. Nothing crazy dirty in there, so that's good news. We'll take a look at the oil itself in the housing here in a second. Let me plop the filter down in there, and let's take a look. Let me zoom in for you. Yeah, looks pretty clean. Nice, clean used oil. Let me try to soak up what we have in there so it's as clean as possible when we put in the new filter. And likewise, a lot of people like to prime their can filters. I might prime it a little bit in here with fresh oil and then put those near 7 quarts in there. Probably another way to get this oil out there is use some kind of syringe or extraction tool. I'm sure BMW sells something fancy and expensive to do this, but I'll just throw this towel in here. These do a pretty good job of soaking up stuff. And then I'll, of course, inspect everything before putting in the new filter. This one shop towel might do the job. Let me know in the comments if there's a better tool or method to do that. Might get yelled at. You're doing it wrong. Maybe. But it should be fine. But yeah, otherwise really nice and clean in here. The oil, I presume, does not have a huge amount of miles on it. I'm going to presume within 5K or less miles. Just a nice dark brown color. I'm going to presume it's a 530. That's the BMW recommended. I'm a 540 kind of guy, especially for anything at 100K miles or more. That's just me. Little extra insurance and security and protection for your engine. Slightly thicker weight. Should be some help, you know, with the high summer heat and the fun high RPM runs. Trying to think other maintenance item wise. Being 100K miles, I'll have to do some research around transmission fluid changes. The transmission shifts just fine, but I'm just interested in what people have come across with the needs for transmission fluid changes coming from Subaru's manual transmissions. After some abuse and hard driving, it helps in those cars to switch out the fluid, at least in my experience. So we'll see about these 8-speed ZF autos they're definitely putting in work with those snappy shifts. It's interesting how far automatic transmissions have come. I drove like a early 2000s Audi the other day, and it was, you know, a V8, but the automatic was quite slow. But that used to be the norm. You know, it was a bit slushy. And these new ZFs in the European cars are quite snappy. They've literally gone away from DCT transmissions to use the automatics because they're that good. My finger is clean. I'm just going to do a nice wipe. Yeah. Looks nice and clean. All right, let's go pull out the new filter and put it in. Here we are back with the old filter. Pretty much the way this filter works, it has a couple rubber O-rings, and then it inserts into the top plastic filter housing. It also has a nice rubber O-ring at the top here. This one still looks quite fresh. Had a long hair on it, so I don't know if the previous owner left that there for me to discover. I could see it's a genuine BMW filter. The lettering is on this side. I'll double check if there's an orientation by which this needs to be inserted, but pretty much pop that out. Honestly, don't see any debris or anything. Good news. And so the non-lettered side was pushed in there. I don't know if that is important or not, but we will take a look now. In the new kit that we have received, let's lay that down there for a sec. Get a new paper towel. Going to be working with a clean new filter. Here's the new one. Comes with a couple new O-rings and what looks like a nice O-ring for the drain plug. Very considerate of them. I'll hang on to that for the future in case I need a new drain plug O-ring. Filter itself, very similarly styled. And so lettering on one side from MAN and no lettering on this side. So that's the side I'll insert inward into here. To be most honest, these O-rings look pretty good. And still soft. Sometimes if these are like hard, it's a good indication to replace them because then they're no longer doing their job. These are just nice and mushy, which means they might still be okay to use. But, you know, we have the new ones, so let's just put those in anyway. I'll grab a screwdriver and do that. I'll keep this oriented up so we don't get anything on the new filter yet. Quick idea or rule is I wouldn't pop off this O-ring until you're ready to insert the new one. Sometimes these housings have a couple grooves and you could maybe forget and mistaken where the O-ring goes, and that wouldn't be good for leaks and stuff. I'll pop off the old flusy old one. That one did seem a little loose compared to this new green one that I put on here, but I have some, you know, oil or lube on my fingers, so I'm just gonna run across this one, make sure there's nothing on it, no debris, so it's nice and smooth, and then just install it in its location and run it around with some pre-lube. We're good to go. Let's get back up there. All right, we're back up here. So that filter inserts here, already pre-inserted in the housing. What I want to do is add a little bit of oil in here so that when I insert it, it's gonna soak up some of that oil and kind of pre-lube itself instead of me starting the car and it just shooting up 80 psi of oil into a paper filter. Wouldn't want it to rupt in any way or rupture in any way. I guess kind of a old school way of doing things, but I guess that's how I was taught. Let's open up our mow tool. That's pretty much 7. So that's what we'll try to do. Please don't spill anywhere. Just like to avoid spills if possible. I think that's a fair amount. Recording. Let's just pre-lube that O-ring again. Should be pretty good, but it's pretty snug in here. Got this tool all greasy and oily. It's not helping with hand tightening. We're just gonna go nice and slow for now. And snug it up. I think that's good. Okay. Let's pour in our oil. I like to also carefully clean kind of this oil neck. Sometimes on the outside perimeter, it'll get a bunch of grime just from debris under the engine bay. I definitely don't want it going in there. So patience and being very careful. Can wipe that off. Kind of wipe outwardly and away from the hole to wipe that off. You can do the same for the oil cap. You'll see, let me grab that. Sometimes on this rubber ring, you'll see some grime. And so you can carefully wipe all that off, you know, less chance of it falling into the engine. What I'll do is probably put in these 5, then do the liquid moly additive, and then do the other 2 quarts. Look at that golden goodness. I think the M5 takes like almost 9 quarts. I mean, the more oil, the more capacity, I think the better. The more oil you have in your system and circulating through all the coolers and stuff. I'm only for that.
The cutters, are they outside?
Over here.
Azachi! Azad!
He's in the garage.
Oh.
Let's talk engine additives from Liquid Moly. There's the Ceratec stuff and then this MOS2 anti-friction. This stuff's a lot cheaper, but you have to add it every time you do an oil change because it comes out with your oil. What I heard is this stuff is more expensive, but you put it in once and then it could last you multiple oil changes because it creates some kind of ceramic coverage and film on the metal components inside your engine as well as the bearings. Could be. I'm a little bit biased, so I'm going to save this for my fancier car, the car that I want maybe to treat a little nicer, the M5, especially the car that's known to have more bearing and engine failures and issues compared to like these inline 3s. But I've been happy with both products. I'll put this in because I have several of these bottles, but I wanted to show this off. If you're looking to really treat your engine nice, you can put this stuff in as well. And I definitely feel like I've heard a difference in cars and the way they sound their engines when I've put this in them. Let's say you can add this without an oil change. Let's say you recently did your oil change or you didn't, but you bought this at the store. You can put it in there definitely run the car after you put it in so it mixes. But you might be surprised at the how much quieter your engine will run after you put some of this stuff in. But let's do that now. You're also going to see that the color of this substance is like a nice gray. Don't be worried. It's supposed to be that way. One interesting thing is sometimes when I empty it, I'll fill it full of new oil, close it up, shake it up, and empty it again because you're still have quite a bit in there. I'll do that and you'll see how gray the oil is once I pour it out in here again. Here we go again. Mix some oil in there and check out the color. Still got quite a bit of gray in there. I want to get all of that out. All that goodness. Okay, so that's like another quarter to half quart. I guess I don't want to overfill. I'll add a bit more and then we'll run the car. We'll run the car and make sure the oil level is all good. I'm going to presume we're near that 7 at this point. Stinky. Let's go and fire up the car. Make sure nothing drips underneath. Let's start it up and see how she sounds. Sounds pretty good. Let's get under there. Come on with me. Boop. Oil pan looks good. I'm gonna get her off the jack stands and the jacks. Let it run for a few minutes and then do the oil level measure test, and then we'll top it off if we need to. So I've put the car in level ground. It does need a longer running cycle to actually allow you to measure the oil level. I think you actually need to warm it up. So I'll go for a quick spin around the neighborhood and come back and we'll get inside and measure the oil level. All right, I've had this thing running for a good couple minutes. Let's measure the oil level. Takes a little bit. It bumps the idle a little bit to like right over 1,000. That's normal. And just gonna measure the oil for us. I'm on a pretty even plane. I think being inside the garage is a way better way to measure, but I just want to get a rough estimate before I do any driving. All right, sometimes the oil level test cuts out. I found that to be true in the past. The way I do it is you just restart the car and run the test again. I don't know what kicks it out or interlocks it out. Like right there, I don't know why it did that, but it does that every now and then. For me, I just restart the car and usually rerun it real quick. I don't know if your car does that and you know why, let me know. while it's doing that, let me start up this Autel scanner or computer, whatever you want to call it. Might not work, battery power might be out, but it does pull power from the OBD2 port. And there's a lot of cool real-time diagnostics that this thing has. It can help you tell where misfires are coming from. It does a lot of cool stuff with like oil pressure and whatnot. So we can check that in a second. Yeah, I did it again. Very oddly. I don't know why. I'm gonna try one more time. Maybe I do just have to go for a drive. BMW issues. More like wonders. Car has a mind of its own. I'll catch you once I get this thing to work. Reset your oil interval. Brake jobs, brake fluid, rear brake pads, reset possible, front pads, engine oil, reset. Yes. Engine vehicle check, reset possible. Brake fluid's fine. Press and hold the button for 3 seconds and it does the reset for you. Everything looks green. I'll just do the oil because I just changed it, so might as well. Let's see what they recommend for miles on the intervals, because it's probably crazy high. 16,000 miles. No way. That's bad. Vehicle check. I mean, I've been checking this vehicle all the time. I know it needs new engine mounts. I have those already in the garage. Just need to get those done. Boom. We're all green. Beautiful sunset out here today. What I mentioned about the Autel that I have still plugged in here, I'm going to record some data and review it when we get home. I have a little MHD dongle, and so through the MHD app you can do a lot of this diagnostic testing as well. It's not strictly one tool, but still nice to have a diagnostic tool that works on practically all cars that are OBD2. OBD2 meaning 1995 and after. I can see the oil level or temperature has gone up just a hair above the 160, so technically should be able to get to a point where we can measure. Okay, there's hope. Took a slow cruise around the neighborhood. Perfect. We're at the max. Good to go for the next 16,000 miles, as they say. No, don't do that. Change your oil every like 5K at the most, especially if you love your car.